Hello.
Hello again. How are you?
I am good. I just met Alison for the first time when we were prepping for this, and then I hadn't heard her speak, but then listening to her here in the audience, you're awesome. I just loved it. Took away so many great nuggets, as I'm sure many folks here in the room did. So I just have a few questions. I so wish we could open it up for Q&A. We don't have time. We're standing between us and lunch. But I just thought I had a few that I was very curious about.
Let's do it.
So the first one is, so how often does this happen as women? You're told, you're just too nice, you're not strategic enough, I don't really know what's on your mind. How do you respond to that?
So I would say three things if that happens to you. The first is, I'm sorry. The second is, it's not true. And the third one is, get curious. Mm-hmm. And what I say about that is, when someone's saying something like that to you, they're not saying that's who you are. They're saying it's how I'm reading you. And what we know from psychology is most people are terrible at giving feedback. They give global generalizations that are useless to the people receiving them. Mm-hmm. But if we can get curious about them, we might be able to figure out what they're relying on. Mm-hmm. And that will give us information to figure out what to do next. So I'll give you an example from me that's I have a different job than most people, but interesting experience. I know that I am a self-deprecator. It's something I work on. I talk about in the book why this is a bad thing, but I voluntarily will go into rooms that haven't asked me and just tell people I'm bad at stuff for no particular reason. And I knew I wasn't supposed to do that, but I wrote the first draft of this book. I sent it to my editor, and who, despite buying the book and believing in it, didn't know me well. The biggest piece of feedback that came back when I wrote the first draft of this book was, oh my goodness, look how much you are cutting yourself down. You are cutting down your own expertise. And Alison, these are not your high school besties. People buy books to read them from experts. And you are an expert, but you're not acting like one. So stop. And there's red line through all these things. And I saw it and I thought, she's absolutely right. These are very self-deprecating things to say. They're very much my style, but they're not working in this context. Now, if you didn't have a job like me, how would that have actually happened at work? My self-deprecation would have been smattered here and there, often verbally in meetings. And people would see it. And they would say, I don't think she has a lot of presence, which is a terrible global form of feedback, but they might be reacting to something that I didn't know I was doing and is not central to my identity. I didn't want to be doing that. So I always say you can be annoyed and curious at the same time. When someone offers global critical feedback, be annoyed, but then be like, what's it about? It could be about bias, in which case you're like, I'm going to find the nearest exit. But it also could be about something that I'm unaware of in the way that I'm presenting that's so easy for me to fix that maybe I would do it if I got curious about it. So I think you don't know which direction it is until you can get curious and help draw it out of the person who's just saying the thing in a bad way.
Yeah. It actually leads me to another question I had that I think sort of builds from there is, many women, myself included, have suffered from imposter syndrome. Right? And I've read that typically it's some of the top performing women that suffer most. And so how do you think about that? How do you navigate through it if you're going through it? Any thoughts there?
So wait, this is totally true. So this is my analogy for imposter syndrome. Has anyone ever done some physical activity and woke up the next day sore? Okay, right? All right, now, it doesn't feel particularly fun to be sore, but you don't run to the emergency room. Right? Or what's wrong? Because I worked out. That's what happens. Sore muscles after a workout are essentially is what imposter syndrome is like. The soreness doesn't feel fun, but it's part of the process. It's how you grow. Imposter syndrome is a byproduct, like sore muscles. What is it a byproduct of? Having really high goals. Because we are never done growing and developing. Where you are now, you would have killed to be there 10 years ago. But now it's not interesting anymore because you're there. Now you're killing to be somewhere else. So we've just reset the bar. Well, what does that mean? We always sit here looking to here and it just, but it doesn't close, okay? You know who's the sorest? The ones who work out the most, the people who lift the most. You know who has the most imposter syndrome? The people who are reaching for the most. Because it sits in the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And you're like, oh, but I don't know if I'm there yet. Yeah, you're never going to be there because that's what good goal setting is. So we have to recognize, my philosophy is you don't make imposter syndrome go away in the same way you don't make muscle soreness go away. You recognize I can't be strong without that happening from time to time. I can't have high goals without that happening from time to time, which is why so many of us have it, because there's a bunch of ambitious people.
Yeah, no, that's such good advice. So I've built a whole career around sales.
Yes.
A critical part of that is negotiations. Would love to hear your thought around negotiations, not only how to do it effectively, but often sometimes it doesn't go well. You're like, oh, why did I say that? And so that, how do you work through that, or how do you bounce back?
Yeah, so one important thing is, what's the definition of it not going well in negotiation? It's not what most people think. Most of the time people think it didn't go well if I didn't get what I wanted. But sometimes what you wanted is not possible. My middle child, 13, just came to me and tried to negotiate for a TV in his bedroom. I was like, hard pass, my friend, that's not happening. There was nothing he could have done strategically to get the TV. It's not happening. So failure, I always tell people in negotiations, you are not a magician. It is not your job to trick another human being into doing something they have no interest in doing. You are a detective. You are trying to figure out, is there a mutually beneficial solution here? And if so, I'm gonna find it, because that's what a good detective does. So I've taught negotiation for over 20 years. Failures are one of two things. There was a way that we could have had an agreement that would have helped both of us, but we couldn't find it because we were too stubborn or too mad or whatever. That's a failure. The other failure is someone got what they wanted, but the relationship is left bruised and damaged such that the other person doesn't want to work with them again. And instead of being out talking about them behind their back positively, is taking every opportunity to trash them. Those are two failures. They both come from the same thing, which is not understanding what the other person values and showing that you care about it. The quickest way to get what you want and make a friend is to find out what the other person really wants and give it to them. And what that requires, right, is a lot of curiosity of, for you, what are the key things you need for it to be a win? And if you really understand that, then the puzzle goes together pretty quickly. Like there's either a space here or there's not. But most of the times that we think about when we failed, it's because I didn't really know what you wanted. I assumed, so if I think about my own, I assumed I was sure what the other person wanted. I assumed I was giving them a really good deal. And only after the fact I realized I didn't know them like I thought. I wasn't curious. So the more curious we are about people to say, I do want you to be successful. Tell me what that looks like for you. One, it's a lot easier to figure out if there's a deal, but also it's another way to show that you care, right? That what you doing well in this also matters to me.
Yeah, such good advice, such good advice. Okay, I have time for one more question.
Let's do it.
And I've been accused of this. I think when you and I chatted, you'd said that you'd had a situation as well, which is sometimes for women, there's this phrase that comes up far too often, which is, wow, you have a resting bitch face, which is horrible, but it's, and women get labeled as too serious or unapproachable. So, how do you deal with that without having to smile all the time? Like some people just don't have a natural smile. And so.
Myself included. I think we look probably decent, hopefully decently smiley right now. I'm a terrible smiler. I'm a terrible smiler. My face just doesn't go in that shape very often. It physically hurts. And so, yes, I talk in the book about this, that when resting bitch face was coined in an article, I had a colleague send me the article. There was no text in the email. It's just the article. And I was like, why is my colleague sending me an article with no text? I open it, I read it. Oh. So like years of being told, I had that look on my face flash before my eyes. So here's what I would say about this. There are two things that are non-negotiable if you want other people to value. They need to believe you care about them. And they need to see you as good at what you do. Those are not negotiable. How you show them those two things, you have infinite flexibility. Smiling is just a nonverbal cue that you are happy. When you smile at someone, it's like, oh, I'm trying, I like you, hi, okay. It's just a cue. You have other cues. So what I say to people is, you don't have to do anything that doesn't feel like you, but you should be aware of the cues you give off. So once I became aware that I was not a good smiler, I actually became better at building relationships. Why? Because I was really good at using words. So I could say with words the ways that I cared about people, right? Give them compliments, like do nice things for them. And so when you start to become aware of what your behaviors are, don't change, but if something's not working for you, think, how do I love to show people that I care? And then do that. I have a neighbor who's an amazing thank you note, like a note writer. She must have 753 forms of stationery. I have almost as many, never been touched, okay? I get a note from her last year. She passed me in the neighborhood. I get a note from her. that it just said, you looked fabulous. She passed me, she thought I had a nice outfit on. She went home, she took out a note card, she wrote, you look fabulous. She put a stamp on it and she put it in the mail. Okay? Made my whole week. Never in a million years will I ever do that for any of you. It's not my way. But I guarantee you, right, when you interact with me, you're gonna say, right, you can figure out that someone cares. So that's what I would say. It's not about smiling. It's about saying what is natural and authentic for me to be able to communicate to that person. It's just one cue.
That's awesome. I hate to say it, we are out of time. You've been fabulous, and you do look fabulous. So thank you so much. Give it up for Alison.